We're exactly 1 month away from Apple releasing the iPhone 17, and over the past few days, there have been a number of major leaks. Apple themselves just confirmed the new design for this year. The cameras are getting their biggest upgrades probably ever, and the specific availability and pricing has surfaced. Okay, there's a lot of big stuff I want to show you, starting off with Apple themselves leaking the iPhone 17 Pro, and to my knowledge, it has never happened like this before. A few days back, somebody spotted what appears to be an Apple engineer holding up a couple of iPhones, testing them in the wild. The one in the back isn't particularly notable, it just looks like a standard iPhone 16 Pro with a covered Apple logo, but the one in the front has been heavily camouflaged in what's known as a stealth case. The idea here is to hide or obscure any notable design details and only show what's absolutely necessary, and it's a practice Apple has been doing regularly since at least 2010 with the iPhone 4, where that was camouflaged to look like an iPhone 3GS when it was being tested. Except this time around, there was a dead giveaway. With the iPhone 17 Pros, we know Apple is planning to use a brand new camera bar aesthetic, one that moves the LiDAR and the flash all the way over to the right. It perfectly matches up with the LiDAR and flash cutouts in this prototype iPhone, which 100% confirms that this new camera bar look with the triangular lens setup and the huge spread over on the right, that is actually happening. This is real. Somehow, in addition to this, we also got an image of the front of the iPhone 17 Pro in testing, but it was so far away that we unfortunately couldn't see what was exactly on the display. The other person in this photo was apparently Apple security that was trying to block any shots or photos of the phone in testing, which to me just goes even further. 100% this was real. But even with confirmation straight from Apple, it still didn't explain why the camera bump was changing in the first place. Why is Apple raising it and stretching it across the top of the phone? Why are the flash and the LiDAR moving over? Well, I think we just got the missing puzzle piece that we have been looking for months. According to a new leak, Apple is planning to completely redesign the zoom lens on the iPhone. The telephoto zoom, which is currently set at 5x, is now said to physically move back and forth on the 17 Pros, going all the way up to an 8x zoom. And how do zoom lenses work? Well, they start at one point, and then to zoom in, they physically move out, and they need additional space. See, right now in the current iPhone design, Apple couldn't do this because the camera bump is only raised at that portion of the phone. But on the 17 Pro, Apple's building in a lot more space, and they're moving components out of the way of the telephoto zoom lens, which is the one placed the furthest on the right. I think we figured it out. I think Apple is going to add a movable zoom on the 17 Pros, which to me would be the biggest jump for the camera in the iPhone's history. Though I should mention that the same leak also says something that I just don't believe at all, which is that Apple is going to add a second camera control button on the top of the iPhone 17 Pros this year. Yeah, that's right. According to this, there's not only going to be the camera control on the right side of the phone, there's also going to be one at the top, so regardless of what orientation you're in, you have access to your capture and quick settings. But I do not believe this for a second. There is no way Apple would add a second one of these buttons on the top of the device. Not only would it look horrendous, it makes no sense for a button that people barely use currently. Along with that, the same leak suggests that Apple is working on a Pro version of the camera app specific to the Pro iPhones to show off the advanced features, but it is mentioned that this could be confused with just an update Apple's working on for Final Cut Camera, which is already a Pro version of the camera app that Apple released back in 2024, and I think that sounds way more realistic than just making the simplified camera app more confusing for all users. Now, speaking of leaks, I had no idea that for years my personal information was being sold online behind my back by these companies known as data brokers, and that's why I partnered up with Incogni, who sponsored today's video. You might already know Incogni is the best service to help you get some privacy back online, as on your behalf they reach out to hundreds of data brokers to tell them to stop selling your information. And just recently, Incogni even added custom removal, so if you search your name online and you see something that shouldn't be out there, you can send it directly to Incogni and they will try their best to get it removed. You can even see the status of all of your requests in one place using Incogni's dashboard to give you a fully transparent look at where they're at with each request. And with Incogni's data removal practices recently being verified by Deloitte, there is just no better option out there. So take your personal data back with Incogni. Use my code AppleTrack at the link below to save 60% off an annual plan at incogni.com/AppleTrack. A huge thank you to them them for making my life so much better and for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. Next up, just when we thought we had seen all of the new colors for the Pro iPhones, it seems like Apple has something else up their sleeve. In addition to the dark blue and sunset orange that a lot of people seem to be excited about, there's also a brand new special edition color on the way. And according to a leaker who has been very accurate on colors in the past, this colorway is going to tie into liquid glass. So while in some case scenarios it'll just look like plain white, as you move your phone around, it'll shift the colors and look different depending on where you're at. I think this sounds super cool, and it reminds me of something like the jet black iPhone that Apple did back on the iPhone 7, where it was only around for a year, but Apple really wanted to show off their production capabilities for producing something that was only available on a specific model. And I also think it would be a perfect tie-in to promote the new design of iOS 26, which will be the launch software on the 17th. Now, the iPhone 17 Pros are also going to mark a pretty big material change for Apple. They're getting rid of titanium on here and going back to aluminum. And while for months there has still been a lot of skepticism that Apple would actually ditch a premium material for something cheaper like aluminum, we have now seen our first concrete evidence that they are 100% going in this direction. As in a new leaked photo, we can see someone holding what appears to be the iPhone 17 Pro chassis in what is milled out of a single piece of aluminum, with the much larger camera bar up at the top and then a space cut out for the glass MagSafe down below. I know even recently there have been some renders showing this design for the iPhone 17 Pro, which just looks like the 16 Pro with a bigger camera bar. These are outdated and not correct. Every piece of evidence in the past 3 months has pointed to Apple really revamping the Pro's design, giving us this pretty different two-tone look that is what they will be unveiling in September. However, titanium might not be entirely absent on the iPhone 17 lineup after all, as we've gotten some new details for the iPhone 17 Air. Because according to a new rumor, Apple was either using all titanium or an aluminum titanium material combo on the Air to keep it both lightweight and durable at the same time. And considering that this is going to be the special model this year, I do think Apple using a premium material like titanium would make sense. I still don't know how they're going to exactly justify getting rid of it on the Pros. But maybe the most interesting thing we've seen for the Air in the past week is the exact size of the battery. And while I thought it was going to be bad, we've now seen a picture of the actual battery. This is a picture of the iPhone 17 Air's battery next to the iPhone 17 Pros. Not only is it about half the size, it actually specifically measures in at just 2.49 millimeters, which is like not much space for an actual battery. And we know it has to fit into the ultra slim 5.5 millimeter housing design, but I just don't know how Apple is going to make this work. I mean, obviously we know the battery case will be a part of the marketing as a way to extend the Air's battery life, but day to day, I do not think it's going to be a good situation for the Air, and it just keeps looking worse and worse. Especially because the Air is not getting the new MagSafe either. On the Pros, they're getting this new design that changes up the magnet positioning and shifts it down on the phone, likely to inaugurally offer reverse wireless charging, which will be super cool. On the Air and the base iPhone 17, it is just the regular MagSafe that we've had since 2020, which is disappointing considering all the other compromises that we know the Air has, like a single camera, a slightly worse processor, and a single speaker. The closer we get to launch, the harder this phone seems to justify, knowing that there will also likely be a price increase. According to a new analyst, Apple is planning for a $50 price increase on both of the Pro models in addition to the Air. So if Apple follows their pricing from last year, that keeps the base iPhone 17 still at $800. It puts the Air up to about $949, the Pro at $1,049, and the Pro Max at $1,249, the cheapest one you can get. Why this year instead of in the past? Well, because of tariffs. And while Apple is not going to market it as such, that is the actual reason that iPhone prices are increasing, because Apple's costs have gone up, so they need to recoup that money, and they are passing that price increase on to the consumer. But how is Apple going to market this to customers? Well, it seems like at least on the Pro models, they are going to be doubling the base storage from 128 to 256 gigabytes. So even though it's $50 more this year, you are getting double the space. And the launch date for this year's iPhone 17s has also surfaced. According to German carrier sources, Apple is planning their September event this year for for Tuesday, September 9th. This lines up perfectly with what we were expecting and with Apple's historical patterns. So Tuesday, September 9th sounds like the unveil date to me. That again means the iPhones would release about a week and a half later on Friday, September 19th. So I hope you enjoyed these latest rumors on the iPhone 17. I still cannot believe that Apple themselves was caught testing the 17 Pro. I've been thinking about that most days for the past week or two. Wild. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, drop a like down below. It helps me and the channel out. Hit subscribe for more as we get closer to launch. I cannot wait. I've been Sam. I hope you are doing well, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye-bye.